the second most deadly chemical out there besides plutonium. Who wants plutonium? Good, there's no terrorists in here. Good start. But when we look at mercury, mercury's been known to damage only 8 systems of the body. The central nervous system, the immune system, the endocrine system, your gastrointestinal system, cardiovascular, neurological, psychological, and reproductive. Only 8. There's a really good part to that. It's only 8 systems. The bad part is there aren't any other ones. So you do the math and you're talking to someone, oh, I have these issues. Odds are good it's going to fall into one of those categories. And if you're talking to someone, I don't want anyone in here to have to garner the expertise that I've had in this subject. It's taken me 10 years plus another 38 of being around it. But what you can do with people, because people like to talk about issues, how can your product help me? I have these symptoms. My doctor said I had this issue. How is it going to help me? Tell them, you have a really good friend called Google. And you're going to ask Google, hey Google, what are these issues and mercury toxicity and heavy metals? And Google will tell you, here's 500,000 things to go along with it. And they'll validate what you're talking about. There is no argument. No debate. So you go, okay, I win. So then we look at the process of actually getting the stuff out, because we know that our body lacks the ability to remove these chemicals and toxins that get into the body. And different heavy metals, different toxins, different chemicals are stored in different places of the body. One of the primary places the body will put toxins so it can maintain life is fat. Because it's how your body socks the stuff away. It's got to get it away from the organs, so it's going to put it in fat. I'm working on adding more. You look at neurotoxins like mercury and aluminum. They're neurotoxic and lipophilic, so they like fat. But if it's neurotoxin, neurology, they get stored in the brain. And when you look at detoxification protocols today, when you hear people talking about the latest detox, what do most people talk about? GI, kidney, liver. You gotta do this cleanse. You gotta do this flush. Which means take this stuff, go sit down for a couple hours, and just go. I gotta do that again? That's not a detox. But we haven't been able to actually systemically remove these toxins passively in the manner that we've needed until now, because the protocols and mechanisms haven't been available. So we get to the zeolite side. Zeolites are a class of mineral, a volcanic mineral, that are formed from different volcanic eruptions and how they end up. So some people are familiar with bentonite, right? You can get it in the health food store with the clay. Most people are familiar with asbestos, right? Asbestos is a zeolite. Asbestos, like other zeolites, is very good at binding water and moisture. So it was used in houses and whatnot to keep moisture out of there. They didn't know that it could cause mesothelioma. We did later. Clinoptilolite, pronunciation very important. Everybody will learn to pronounce that properly over time. Not really. You can call it clino, you can call it kryptonite. But clinoptilolite is a very special mineral in that group, where it is a natural honeycomb-shaped structure that kind of looks like quartz. But it has a natural negative charge in this very microporous honeycomb structure that acts like a molecular sieve. It's what nature created to clean up the environment. So volcanoes emit massive amounts of gases and toxins into the environment. They're nature's largest source of chemicals and toxins emitted. It only makes sense that that same process would create something to remit it or remove it. Because without it, life would be supportable. That's where these minerals come in. So clinoptilolite is very good at binding heavy metals, binding toxins. The Romans used it to line the aqueducts. When they did, the water tasted better. When they didn't, they died of lead poisoning and they went crazy. So, it's proven. Very well published. There's over 360 published clinical studies on clinoptilolite for its ability to bind heavy metals, bind different mycotoxins used for air filtration, water filtration, sewage filtration, oil filtration, kitty litter, water filters. Most of you have probably seen clinoptilolite in use in other forms, but you just never knew. Air filters, water filters. You remember the green bags that came out a few years ago? That you could put your fruit in and it lasts longer? Those bags are lined with clinoptilolite because it binds nitrogen and ammonia. So as the nitrogen comes off of the fruits, it binds it in the bag so the fruit lasts longer. Who knew? Kind of cool. The problem with the mineral is, though, it's a rock. It's a solid. So you can grind it into a powder and ingest it, like kaopectate. How many people know what kaopectate is? This is an age question. There's a couple of them. The doctors in the room are going, I know that one. Kaopectate is a really thick suspension of clinoptilolite. It works in the gut, in the GI. Binds some toxins, holds onto a lot of water, and dries up stuff so you can pass more solid stool. It's been used in other areas for the military and whatnot, but very, very well proven, very passive, can't hurt you. But it can't get through the GI tract when it's ingested. And for the last 10 years, there have been many products sold, some suspensions and powders, in the health market. Now, there's a big difference between suspension and liquid. If you go back to grade school chemistry, a suspension is like making Kool-Aid. Or it's like grabbing a glass of water, going outside, grab some dirt, throw it in the glass, mix it around, and it turns into brown water. Or your Kool-Aid changes colors, or whatever you want. If you let it sit for a little bit, it settles. That's not a liquid, that's a suspension. You're putting a solid in water. A solution is actually something that is truly water soluble. And liquid, it's like taking salt and putting it in water. And it dissolves, and it becomes part of the water, like seawater. Those are the two concepts we're working on. Every other product in the industry is either a suspension or a powder. So you're taking dirt, basically, and ingesting it. And it'll work in the GI tract. And there's great benefit to that. But if you want to get to your brain, if you want to get to fat, if you want to get to tissue, you've got to be water soluble. So what we've done is created a very specific process that breaks down and breaks apart the cage structure of the zeolite into much smaller fragments. We call them hydrolyzed clinoptilolite fragments. So imagine taking a honeycomb, and we clean out the cages, which is important because you have a porous mineral structure that binds heavy metals and toxins, and it's 250 million years old. There's a lot of stuff in there that you probably don't want to put in your body. Odds are good. So you grab onto all that stuff, we pull all that out, and then we're basically separating the connections of the honeycomb to make much smaller fragments that are in actual water solution. The molecular weight range, because we've done liquid chromatography mass spec analysis, so actual real analytical chemistry, to get a chemical fingerprint of what we've created. Absolute science, indisputable, can't argue with it. It is what it is. It's your fingerprint. And what we've created is a product that is standardized, which is also extremely important, because most nutritional supplements you get aren't standardized. When raw ingredients come in, to make different products, they're always different. We've standardized this process so the fragment sizes range between 217 and 635 daltons in molecular weight. Now it's important to understand that part, because mercury itself is about 200 daltons in molecular weight. It's really freaking small. And this is really important because if you are water soluble and you are really small, you can permeate cellular membranes. To cross the mitochondrial wall of a cell, a molecule can be up to 10,000 daltons in molecular weight. So we're 15 times smaller than the size needed to permeate the mitochondrial membrane. Not just the cell membrane itself, but inside the cell. This is true subcellular detoxification. We're also able to cross the blood-brain barrier in the same manner. One of the key components is the sodium binding sites that are attached to each fragment. And this goes to the science, because clinoptilolite, we're getting into the science, you guys are going, is a sodium aluminum silicate. So it's a combination of aluminum and silica, aluminum from ash, that's bound with silica from sand and fossilizing over a couple 100 million years. The sodium are the connections between those connections of the honeycomb. We're able to separate those sodium bonds. Some of the sodium ions are attached to the fragments that come off. Some of them stay on the bigger stuff that we get rid of. But the fragments have sodium binding sites, which allow the fragments to move in and out of the cells really effectively. Real science, we're not talking woo-woo here, right? So what we've created is truly a new path and a new pathway for systemic detoxification, but also functional and what I've called causal medicine. Because these are the two main areas of focus in health and wellness now. People are sick and tired of taking drugs. Most people have problems with taking them because the one thing I've talked to Mark and I want to work with Austin on, because we're going to do a lot of advertising. Who's seen a drug commercial? Right? Drug commercials are really cool, right? Because they show you walking on the beach in white linen. Then they say, you have this great lifestyle if you use this drug. It may cause anal leakage, death, liver failure. And you might look like me. I don't want any of those. But what if you had a commercial that shows someone just kicking it, and its side effects are, they have better health, they have more energy, they sleep better. That's what people want, right? They don't want the symptoms. They don't want to have to take drugs for symptoms. You want to deal with all this stuff. Because we know the facts. This was 1974. The World Health Organization came out and said that 80 to 90% of all chronic degenerative diseases are caused by toxic metals. We knew that 40 freaking years ago. You know how much money the drug industry has made based on knowing just that? Because they know that being toxic creates a massive amount of symptoms. Based on those symptoms, they can diagnose you with a disease. Based on that disease diagnosis, they can tell you to take a list of drugs. Based on those drugs, you're going to have other symptomology that needs more drugs, and you go down a path of managed care. Thanks for playing. We're in a broken system. Right. Who wants to change the system? Yeah. So like Austin mentioned, Uber, Airbnb. The B&B is bed and breakfast, so we know where Trey comes from. He's old school. He's like, I know B&B. Airbnb? Both of these concepts are disruptive innovations. Malcolm Gladwell talked about it years ago with the innovator's dilemma. That initially it was disruptive technologies. Now it's become disruptive innovations because it's changed. That you can have an innovation or a change in an industry that changes the paradigm. Now these things are arrogant. They don't care what happens around them. Uber came out. Some people paid attention to it a little bit. Some people were like, hey, I'm going to try this. And what happened? It changed the paradigm. You've got a company that's an app that helps people get a ride somewhere that has revolutionized an entire industry that was prehistoric. And it's become a $58 billion company because they changed the paradigm. Now there was something that happened in, 95, so about 20 years ago, that all of you were part of. Mine first came in a bag. It was a cell phone. And I remember when I got my first cell phone, I had it in my car. I had it plugged into my 81 Ford Granada when I was in high school. Oh yeah. And people were like, that's not going to be a big deal. Who needs a cell phone? I got a landline at home. I can go home and make a phone call when I need to. Who here has a landline anymore? Hardly anyone. Austin's never seen one, unless he's in the office. These things change paradigms. Some of them overnight, some of them over a little bit of time. But they change the way we think, they change the way we function. We're in one of those same time frames because we now have a technology that literally changes the paradigm for detoxification. It's safe, it's simple, it's effective. It gets to the areas of the body where the damage is being done or has been done. You can remove those toxins and allow the body to do what it does. Because I have one question for you guys that you can ask anybody. Can the body heal itself?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
You guys wouldn't argue that? Would anyone argue that point? We have the ability to regenerate, we have the ability to heal?
Yes.
So if you were able to remove a blockage from an area of the body's pretty much going to take care of itself, especially if you added good nutrition to go along with it, right? Welcome to the revolution. Because now you've got something that, one, has very sexy packaging. Even this PowerPoint, I will tell you, is all Austin and his team, because you should have seen the slides that I gave them and said, make this look good, sozo this thing up. This is pretty solid, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you've got a product that looks good, that people will want to use, that once you try it a couple times, you get an effect, right, Kyle? Even after a day, Kyle's going, holy dude, I had some dreams I can't even imagine. Because the product's able to get to levels of the body that are needed. You can get into the pineal gland, you can get into the blood-brain, cross the blood-brain barrier, grab onto some of the stuff that's in your brain, get into your cells, grab the stuff out, and leave passively. It's 100% bioavailable. It's safe, it's natural, it's water soluble. There is no more. Say, okay. That's it. Safe, simple, effective, systemic. That's your pitch. You want detoxification? Yeah. How about brain to toes, everywhere, safe, simple, effective, and systemic? And all you gotta do is take a few drops a couple times a day. Note to self, don't do what Trey did. Unless you want to prove a point to somebody. And when he talked about having to wait for product, I did that intentionally. Because if you find something, and when you talk to everybody's been in one of these presentations before, right? People get riled up. They're like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm excited. This is amazing. That's one thing. When you're able to have something and talk to people and they get emotional, game over. Absolute game over. Because I look in the room and the statistics are a little bit light because there's more guys in here. But in the industry of network marketing, it's 80% women. And you ask every woman in here, you want to make more money? You know what most of them will tell you? Because if I me, I'm more feminine. John and I were in the same boat, right? I wore this color for you, bro. They don't care about money. They're mission oriented. They're mission driven. They're like, I want to help. I want to take care of myself. I want to take care of my family, but I want to be able to help other people. That's what this industry is predicated on. That's the whole basis. Trey mentioned, money is a scoreboard of who and how many people you serve. That's all it is. Because you can get to the point where you've got enough of it that you can't spend it all. Then it's about helping other people with it. That's part of the mission. You guys are going to get to a point where instead of doing a monthly auto ship for a couple bottles, you're going to keep ordering packs and you're going to be giving it away like I do. You're going to pass out bottles like Oprah passes out car keys. And you know what happens when you do that? Your group will explode. Because then people are talking to their friends, hey, what is that stuff? What are you doing? Why are you taking eye drops orally? What is that? Whatever you're doing, I want to try it. Because you look different. They're like, hey, how'd you get that? Oh, I talked to my friend. You know, they hooked me up. You get it on this website. Real sexy website. You got to check out this mobile app. Makes it really easy. So like I touched on, safe, systemic, simple, slow, soluble, passive. Trey, the one on the bottom left, can you repeat that one for me? Slow. Don't do 50 drops twice a day to start with. You don't need to push it. It's designed to be slow. Some people are like, I want to feel results tomorrow. You know what? Great. Do 20. Tell me how you feel in the morning. You can prove a point, but you don't have to. Some people might want to start a lot lower than what's recommended at 10 drops twice a day, just to titrate up, so as not to push their body. You can control that. You can be as passive as you want to be, or you can be aggressive, right? Just people are going to talk about the comparisons, and there will be plenty of materials to talk about this with other products. I've done a lot of work with Mike Adams on Natural News to talk about this, because I did an interview with him. He's done a lot of work to talk about the zeolite industry, because a lot of the powders and the other products in the industry, they don't clean them. You're taking a powder that has a lot of heavy metals and toxins in it, you ingest it, those are released into your body. We took care of that. Like I went over the science, and we have analytical testing, and Mike Adams did independent testing on his own to call me on it. And he called me 2 weeks ago. He's like, dude, if I didn't know any better, you sent me water, because this stuff's clean. I'm like, yeah, he said, there's a little bit of aluminum in there, which would make sense because it's a sodium aluminosilicate, but there's no lead, there's no mercury, there's nothing in it. I'm like, I told you this. I'm not lying. It's real. This is not a joke. So it's not synthetic. It's not a synthetic zeolite. This stuff does work systemically. If people talk about, oh, well, I have this other product, great. You'll have information to give the comparisons. And if someone really wants to battle over it, don't argue with them, just call me. Because I love to do it. Or actually, the other thing you can do is tell people to go on Natural News and then say, great, type in Clayton Thomas. And then I'll put you on the phone with them. But what can we get? Because a lot of people, when we talk detoxification, talk about just one thing. This is broad spectrum because clinoptilolite has been proven to work in a very wide range of issues, not just heavy metals, chlorinated compounds, pesticides, organophosphates, glyphosate, which is a bad deal. And I'm going to try to get a gentleman to work with me, Dr. Don Huber, who's out of Purdue. He has been against GMOs for over 20 years. He's professor emeritus at Purdue, which means he talked out enough that they made him retire. He's a really smart guy. He made comments because he's found research that shows that clinoptilolite binds glyphosate. All the non-GMO people, that's a conversation that you can have with anybody on Facebook or anywhere that cares about glyphosate. You have the only product on the planet that will get it from the areas that it causes damage. Because glyphosate loves to destroy kidneys and livers. You can go get it. Biotoxins, so like biofilms from Lyme, mold spores,